5 things you never knew about the Mummy movie. Number 1. Brendan Fraser almost died. Brendan Fraser nearly died while filming The Mummy, and his near-death experience is just one of many terrifying Hollywood production close calls. In general, adverse filming conditions plagued The Mummy's production. Much of the film was shot in Morocco, in the sweltering heat of the Sahara. To avoid dehydration, cast and crew members were required to consume a custom concoction concocted by the production's medical team every 2 hours. Sandstorms and venomous wildlife were also persistent issues. In several cases, people had to be airlifted to receive treatment after being bitten or stung. Brendan Fraser's life was literally in the balance in another incident. Brendan Fraser has spoken openly about his hanging scene in The Mummy several times since its release. In a 2019 interview for The Mummy's 20th anniversary, Fraser admitted that he did get fully choked out while filming the harrowing scene. To say that wasn't in the original script for The Mummy would be an understatement. The wide shots in the scene were done by a stuntman, but the close-ups had to be done by Fraser himself. The first take went well, but director Stephen Sommer desired a second take with more rope tension. That's when the stuntman made the rope a little too tense, and Fraser inadvertently asphyxiated himself because he wanted to sell it. He was so high on it that he passed out and awoke while an EMT was calling his name. Number 2. No easy feat to blend horror and laughter. When it came to The Mummy, Stephen Sommers had a vision, and that vision has stood the test of time, transforming the 1999 film into an eternal classic, beloved by audiences for generations and generations to come. Audiences adore everything about it, including its quirky humor, memorable dialogue, slapstick comedy, action and adventure, love stories, and the disturbing mummy. These features, however, did not emerge overnight. As Sommers put it, the most difficult aspect of the film was balancing humor and horror, as he didn't set out to make a straight horror film. There was even a last-minute change. Rick isn't your typical hero. He's not always aware of his surroundings, and he makes mistakes. This is most evident when he and Evelyn are attempting to flee the boat, and she grabs his clothes and pulls him to her, saving him from 2 bullets that would have hit him head-on otherwise. This gag was apparently suggested by director Stephen Sommers the night before the scene was to be filmed. Being on set can sometimes help get the creative juices flowing, resulting in a fun addition to the script. To that, audiences would definitely tell him he did a marvelous job regardless. Number 3. Brendan Fraser didn't want to continue. Following the success of 1999's The Mummy, a similarly high-octane sequel, The Mummy Returns, was released in 2001. Both films did well at the box office, grossing over $400 million each, despite receiving mixed reviews from critics. Despite the modest success of the 2003 spin-off The Scorpion King, the series went cold when director Stephen Sommers stepped into 2004's Van Helsing. A third film would not be made until 2008's The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, directed by Rob Cohen. The signs were not promising from the start, with original star Rachel Weisz declining to return and Maria Bello taking her place. While the box office was not bad, breaking $400 million yet again, the reviews were almost unanimously negative. On Rotten Tomatoes, it had a 12% fresh rating in its first week. This, combined with rumors that Brendan Fraser did not want to continue, prompted the studio to abandon plans for a 4th film, despite the fact that both Bello and actor Luke Ford had signed multi-picture contracts. Number 4. Scheduling conflicts. Universal had been working on a revival of their classic Monsters brand for some time, but the failures of Van Helsing and The Wolfman in 2010 hampered their efforts. Despite this, the studio first announced plans to reboot The Mummy in 2012, with Len Wiseman attached as the first director. Wiseman's film would most likely have been in the same vein as the 2017 version of The Mummy. For one thing, the new film's director, Alex Kurtzman, was attached to co-produce with his former partner, Roberto Orsi. John Spates agreed to write the script for the film, which was set in the present day. Wiseman stated in 2012 that his film would be far from the action-adventure tone of the previous Mummy trilogy. It's horror, it's fantastic, it's a more modern take on what would happen if we came across a mummy in our world today. It's quite fascinating. However, due to scheduling conflicts, Wiseman eventually left the project. The next director attached was Andreas Muschietti, director of Mama and the upcoming It, but he left due to creative differences. One key thing that might have been different about either Wiseman or Muschietti's film is the gender of the antagonist. As reportedly Universal had different drafts of the script in the works, some of which featured a more traditional male mummy. Number 5. Unusual insurance claims. The Mummy was shot in Morocco for safety reasons, but certain precautions had to be taken. While the Moroccan military provided official support for the film's production, director Stephen Sommers went above and beyond by purchasing kidnapping insurance for the main cast members. While planning ahead of time and being prepared are beneficial, it is also concerning that such an insurance policy was required in the first place. The cast, on the other hand, had no idea such precautions were taken until after filming had finished. Perhaps if they had known sooner, they would have considered other work.